likely to have a strong effect on risk of completed suicide, either directly or as a consequence of mental health problems. Cannabis isn't the issue. And so Bill and I began to debate this, among other things. And we went back and forth until he agreed to go ahead and have this open public discussion. This was not supposed to be any kind of debate. It was supposed to be an open public discussion of good facts and education. I said, where would you like to do it? I'm willing. He said, how about your most recent deception venue? This is what he called a deception venue. This the Episcopal Church of Sun City. So there's that. Okay, so look at all the folks that are attached to this tweet too. Everybody's watching. The world is watching. Juicy, everybody. So he's back and forth with me doing this with all these guys. So here we are. I know there's no other debate scheduled because my friend Mark Victor, when I sent out my email, he's on my email list, he asked me, hey, I'd love to be there. So I know there's no other things scheduled. Suddenly, MomForce sends out this. He's got 3 debates scheduled now. There's no just open public discussion of a nice educational public discussion. There are now 3 debates happening. So why that happened, I'm not quite sure. But the result was really great. So here's my poster, here's Mark's poster. He's got 3 debates coming up, one right before mine. And what does he do? At the second debate, he calls our friend Don Ream, who couldn't be here. He's got bronchitis and he can't be with us tonight, unfortunately. Our star player, Don Ream, he called an enemy for using recreational marijuana because Don actually stood up. Many of you saw it. It was viewed by over 20,000 people around the world on YouTube. That Don stood up and he was honest with Bill Montgomery. He said, I'm using this. This is making me feel healthy. I feel better. Never felt better in my life. I'm 6 years old, I think he is now. And he's got better health marks than anything. Unfortunately for the bronchitis, but that hits a lot of us. That can happen in the wintertime. So he did that. And called our friend, who Sheriff Joe was good enough to sign a picture after this happened and said, thanks for your dedicated service. Bill Montgomery called him an enemy because he admitted to using marijuana outside of the medical realm. He said, I use it to relax. So, there you have it. So my debate was then canceled, which was very disappointing because honestly that was going to be the one for education, honest, open, just good information. Didn't happen. His reason, no more free forum for drug pushers. So that's what happened to me with Bill Montgomery. He never sent me a Facebook message. I got this through MomForce. MomForce sent out a thing, the debate's canceled. That's the only way I know. So that was kind of a cute, open and honest way to cancel that. Yeah, I got mad. I got pretty mad that that happened, and I will check with Nate. Is the light on? Okay, I wanted to know. It's very important. Definitely got mad, definitely made my own debate, and had the debate anyway without Bill Montgomery. Filmed it, it's on YouTube. It's called Should We Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol? It's had about 200 views so far. 200's okay, not too bad. My husband's not here right now, but what happened next was because of that little film that I put out, because of the repercussions of what had happened to him with the enemy quote, he actually texted my husband at 5 a.m. 5 a.m. in the morning and said, I don't know if your wife is answering her Facebook messages, but I'm looking to see if we could have coffee. So I was like, okay, I'll have coffee, that's fine, let's have coffee. So it ended up being more than coffee. I sat down to coffee with Bill Montgomery in my hometown of Gilbert, and we sat down for 90 minutes. 90 minutes of coffee and breakfast with Bill Montgomery. So what did I do with my time? I told him absolutely everything that I could. I think what happened in the end was so interesting because I gave him one of these books. you know, and we kind of went back and forth, but at the same time I thought he was coming down. I thought he was starting to realize and starting to learn. He took this with him and I said, sir, if you've got anything in here that you are opposed to, that you think is deceptive information, please let me know, because I will change it. Because I want to make sure the public is getting the truth. I'm about to put these out all over Sun City and everywhere. And he said, okay, didn't say a word, you know, I hadn't heard from him. I will say the breakfast ended in a hug, which was just lovely and unexpected. I told him when I got there, I feel like we should hug because we've been through so much together. And while I didn't get one there, he did give me one on the way out. So thanks, Bill, for that. But you got to come around in this cannabis, for sure. So that's where I left Bill, and that was like the top of the summer. And I was hoping he wouldn't say anything or do anything, but he's been back. This guy, Kevin Savitt, if you don't know who he is, he's the head of Smart Approaches to Marijuana, which is basically the biggest MomForce in the country. This is the head of all the prohibitionists. This is the guy to look out for. This guy has me blocked on Twitter. This guy, you need to tweet him, because he came to Arizona, and where'd he go? He went to Sholo. It's like we really would have loved to see him in Phoenix, I'm sure. Anywhere, just come down where there's population. I love Sholo. So what I ended up doing is planning a trip to Sholo. So I contacted the officials and the people that set up the meeting with Kevin Savitt, and I said, hey, there's a whole other side of this issue. Can I get together with you when we come up in June? And they said, well, I don't know, let's talk about it when we get closer. And when we got closer, then they're busy, they're doing something, you know, they didn't meet with me, unfortunately, but I tried, I reached out. That's all we can do is reach out. So we went out to Sholo, we met a few seniors, it was wonderful. The punchline on Sholo over the summer is that the guy, I set it up at the Sholo Senior Center. And the man who owns that place actually has a granddaughter who was treating the seizures with medical marijuana. So when he found out that we were there, he was very happy, and I'm glad that we've been invited back. So we'll be going back again this summer to educate some more seniors up there in Sholo. We made a nice relationship out of it. Oh, here's Paul Moyer. Paul Moyer really lost it on the email. Paul Moyer is really upset about the kids being exposed to marijuana. He says there's been 600% more exposure to children in Colorado to marijuana since legalization. Now, that's a concern, right? Here's the fact. Marijuana is now legal. Cannabis is now legal in Colorado. So, of course, kids are going to be, unfortunately, more exposed to this substance. The good part is they're going to be less exposed to alcohol, less exposed to toxic pharmaceuticals, because when that little kid goes and gets that cookie, like we saw on the billboard, if that kid eats that cannabis cookie, he's going to sleep for a couple days, but he's never, ever going to die. And I told Paul Moyer this, I said if he gets into mom and dad's alcohol, if mom and dad aren't responsible, they leave their alcohol out, they leave their pills out, especially their pills that look just like candy, they eat this, they can die. And to a mother, that's night and day, that's life and death, it means everything. What did Paul Moyer say? He said, well, what if they get the psychosis from being exposed to this marijuana? I said, well, I really think that small exposure versus a child dying is not, you know, it's insignificant. He said, I don't know if you want a child alive if they've got this psychosis. Okay, so that's where we're at with Paul Moyer. Here he is. And you can read this, as you see, for what it's worth. Given the name of this organization, which he was referring to Arizonans For Safe Access, any access to marijuana will never be safe. That's from Paul Moyer, education chairman. Education chairman. Now, his other quote that I love so much, that he didn't like the fact that I say cannabis is non-toxic. I shouldn't say that because the general public isn't smart enough to know that non-toxic means not deadly. He doesn't think that the general public is smart enough to understand non-toxic means not deadly. He thinks that everybody thinks non-toxic means harmless. So I'd like to hope, and by show of hands, how many of you know that non-toxic means it's not deadly? Am I crazy? It looks like we've got a general consensus of smart people, educated people in this room. So there's Paul Moyer. So if you're in District 20, please reach out. Or if you're not, I'm not in District 20. I reached out to him anyway. He needed it. Actually, he reached out to me, and I went and met him in his office. And that was, I'm glad that he reached out to me. And we had a good conversation. But these folks, they need to be addressed. Here's one. AZ Central was good enough to address MomForce and the fact that remember the 62 deaths? Paul Moyer was very concerned about the 62 deaths that Sheila Polk and MomForce suggested that had happened. Now these 62 deaths happened and then they were called out for it. Now these kids died because marijuana was around, marijuana was in the house, the incident happened and they happened to find marijuana. It wasn't because these kids ingested marijuana and passed away. It wasn't from an overdose. It was because there was kids and there happened to be marijuana. There probably also happened to be possibly heroin. Maybe there was alcohol in the house too. But they've related these. And what AZ Central was good enough to do is take that apart and call them misleading. So thank you, AZ Central. That story, we want to see more of that because it's so important. If we don't call these people out, we don't hold these guys accountable. These publications, AZ Central wasn't holding them accountable, and now they are because we with our comments and with our calls, we have let them know that that's not going to happen. Here he is, John McCain. John McCain was saying we should legalize marijuana, just a year ago, year and a half ago. Well, I think, maybe that's a good idea. How much more great information do we need to tell John McCain before he says yes, no? Instead, just a couple months ago, my friend got this letter. This letter basically is the same thing. Why is his face like this? Because he's confused. Somebody wants to scare him. Because you go from one, here's a man that knows enough. He knows enough to say that this maybe is going to help some kids with seizures. Maybe this helps a couple things, but I just don't agree. In general, this just says, I don't agree with legalization. Why? Why Senator John McCain was helping so many people, and it's protecting so many veterans from alcohol overdose. So you've got your veterans who are overdosing from the pills, they're overdosing from alcohol. Alcohol is legal and available. Why can't we legalize a substance that never took a life? Maybe we can save some veteran lives. Maybe you can help us with that. So we got John McCain. This guy, Dr. Ed Gogek. This guy was debating Michael Weiser there a couple months ago. And so I went up to him and I said, Dr. Ed Gogek, do you understand that ADHD medication has derivatives of methamphetamine? Basically, we're asking 1 in 5 kids to take methamphetamine, and you're here all upset about marijuana, and we've got all these kids on meth. What about the heroin overdoses? What about this? And he turns around and he admits that ADHD is legal methamphetamine, but you know what he said to me when he knew that I had a point? He looks at me and he goes, when's the last time you smoked marijuana? I was surprised, and I just said, you know what, earlier today. And he goes, then you're a drug user, and you don't come back and talk to me for 3 months until that's all out of your system. So I'm like, I'm an adult with a medical marijuana card, and you're telling me that I can't use this, but that's okay for kids 1 in 5 to be on legal methamphetamine. So thanks, Dr. Ed Gogek and MomForce, for keeping kids off drugs. Okay, we're getting through it. We got this guy. This is Seth Leff. He's debating people. Oh, we got a new, this just in from Yavapai. Right, honey? Yes. Okay, is it not okay?
Well, it'll be wonderful, as a matter of fact.
Is it okay to say?
I don't know. Let's not.
There's going to be a debate coming up. You guys just keep your eyes open because it's so ridiculous. I don't even want to talk. Maybe I should say. This guy. I think it is in Yavapai, yes. And this guy is one of the people. I won't say another thing because if we.
Let's not empower it. Let's let that.
Okay. Just keep your eyes open for this guy because he's about to do something silly. So there's that. He's part of Arizonans For Responsible Drug Policy, a derivative of MomForce. Basically, MomForce just reworked itself and made themselves into this. I like to call him the enemy of health and safety because I've heard some of his quotes and they're just absolutely ridiculous. So anybody that would say these things just has to be an enemy of health and safety because he's not paying attention to the real information that's out there. So what am I doing? I'm doing all kinds of stuff. All kinds of crazy stuff. Crazy and wonderful. Crazy, great. And I'm loving it. It's a good time. I'm teaching at some of the community colleges, some of the U of A. I'm going to be teaching lifelong learning. All the lifelong learning. I'm not an actual teacher. I'm a mom that's standing up for this. But these people have these lifelong learning classes. Prescott, I'm going up to interview on the 7th. It's very exciting because what these are classes that seniors can go and they pay one price for the year and they can take all these different classes. Go one by one. That's one of the things I'm doing. I'm getting into these classes and it's been wonderful. People are really, really soaking up this information.
Does that say Mensa?
Yes, we went down to Tucson Mensa and I did a presentation there for those folks to let them mull over this good information. P-Flag down in Yuma. The North Valley Coalition on Aging was absolutely amazing. Thanks to Carol Chandler back there with the senior directory. It was a wonderful time, and there are so many great questions that came up. But you know, presenting to people who don't understand cannabis has been the most rewarding thing for me, and I encourage all of you to do the same. This is not just a one-woman show. This is all of us. It's all about all of us getting this within ourselves to get out and get this information out on the streets. But yeah, anything I can do is what I've been doing. I've been putting these little books together, the things that are in front of you, just leaving them around Arizona to make sure that everybody gets this basic information. And now we're back to this guy. Wrapping it up with this guy, you know, he's even made an anti-MPP remark on Facebook publicly, which was really funny, which would suggest that he's also a no MPP person. He said something ridiculous online, so I had to send him the information. I sent Sheriff Joe, and I brought Sheriff Joe the Arizona report. You guys may have seen this Arizona report. I made this for Sheriff Joe because he doesn't go online. And I wanted him to see what's going on in Colorado, how traffic fatalities are at historic lows, how teen use is down, teen drug use is down. They're saving lives in Colorado, and I wanted him to know, straight up in black and white. So, I also have an online version where you can go and you can kill